Hello students, welcome to the lecture series on a very new subject, and that is industrial relations and labor laws. So we will begin with the introduction to industrial relations, and this is part 1. I am Professor Soma Sen Gupta, Kamala Nehru College, University of Delhi. In this lecture, we will cover the following topics: concept of industrial relations, nature of industrial relations, introduction to industrial relations. Now, industrial relations in a very laymanish language, if we say, then it is a relationship between two parties, and when we talk about industries, so it is basically about the labor and management. But in real sense, the definition goes much beyond this simple relationship between the labor and management. Industrial relations deal with the relationship between labor and management and their organizations as well. This constitutes one of the most delicate and complex problems of the modern industrial society, as it is characterized by conflicting ideologies, and basically the ideology of the management, that is the ruling class, and the labor, they differ a lot because they are coming from very different background and very different upbringing as well. All this results in industrial unrest. So, that is another problem of modern industrial society, that is industrial unrest is prevailing in some of the industries. Then rapid changes are happening all around, and that has a bearing on the industrial relations as well. IR is a very broad concept, as it includes all the relationships in the modern industrial society which arise out of the employer-employee relationship. So, it covers in its purview many aspects like the industrial peace, then democracy or industrial democracy, what we call the rights of the labor. All these are part and parcel of the employee-employer relationship. Also, the role of the state in these relations is very important. The state here means the government, because government is one of the party in the relation, this industrial relation, and they also come out with laws or regulations or the entire framework through which they govern the industrial relations. IR are multidimensional in nature and are influenced by various factors. So, on one side it may be economic system of a country which has its repercussion on the industrial relations, then political system, the pattern of the society, changes in socio-economic and political system in a society, all this has a bearing on the industrial relations. IR comprises of a network of institutions which are bound together by a set of common values and aspirations. Now, institutions, here we mean different bodies, that is trade unionism, then collective bargaining, employers and the organization, the law or the legal framework, and the state or the government, all these are institutions. Knowledge of such institution is necessary to understand industrial relations phenomena. These institutions are a social network of organization, participants, processes and decisions. So, they interact with each other and they are interrelated, and they together form the IR environment. Then the purpose of maintaining good IR are basically, when we talk about the organization, they are always interested in increasing the production or productive efficiency. So, IR helps in improving productive efficiency. Also, it maintains the harmonious relations in the industry. So, when harmony is there or peace is there and good relationship exists between the employer and employee, naturally it enhances the industrial relations and working as well as the productivity. Then human well-being. So, harmony does not mean that you are not doing anything for the workers. So, the workers' well-being is also very important. So, that is also covered under IR. Then industrial progress, the progress of the industry as a whole, so that they can achieve the goals and scale newer heights. For that, good IR is required. Now, coming to the concept of industrial relations. So, by now you have understood that it is basically the relationship between not only employer and employee, but also their organization. So, industrial relation means the relation between an employee and an employer in the course of running an industry. So, on the base of this industrial relation is the relationship between employee and employer. But then there are their own organizations also, like the trade unions, like the management, then also the whole of the organization, plus the state or the government. All these comes under the purview of industrial relations. This relation gets reflected into different spheres and areas like human relation management, marketing, quality control, price fixation, disposition of profits, among others. All these are affected by the industrial relations. Industrial relation comprise of two terms. The first is the industry and second is the relation. So, when we talk about industry, it refers to any productive activity or manufacturing unit or any unit where transformation is there from input to output, in which an individual or group of individuals are engaged. And relations, it means the relationship that exists within the industry between the employer and the workman. Coming to the definition of industrial relation, we will only discuss 2-3 definitions of industrial relation. So, first one is by International Labour Organization or ILO. So, what does it say? It states that industrial relations deal with either the relationship between the state and employers and workers organization, or the relation between the occupational organization themselves. So, they are talking about employer relationship as well as of the workers organization and any other relation which occurs out of the occupational organization. Second definition is by Dale Yoder, and this is a very popular definition, that industrial relation is a relationship between management and employees or among employees and their organization that characterize and grows out of employment. So, basically it also this definition also talks about the same thing, that is the management employee relationship as well as employees relationship with the organization. In general, when we say that industrial relation, what it means, it refers to the collective, legal and social relationship between management, employees, trade union and the state, focusing on regulating working condition and resolving conflicts. So, from these definition, this definition, we find that IR aims to foster cooperation, maintain industrial peace, improve productivity through mechanisms like collective bargaining and labour laws. Now, these definitions also reflect that IR relates to employment relation. These relations are governed by institutions. This result into rules that binds the various parties together. Also, the parties may be subdivided into direct parties and indirect parties. When we talk about direct parties, these are basically employer and employees. And when we talk about indirect parties, that is the organization of employees like trade union, then organization of employer, that is employer association, and the state or the government. Now, by these definition, if we wish to know the key components of industrial relation, so they are as follows. The key component of IR is, when we talk about industrial relations, so at least 2 parties should be involved. So, here actually 3 to 4 parties are involved. One is the workers and another is their union, the trade union. Then likewise employers and management, and there may be association of employers also, and also government bodies. Now, when we talk about industrial relationship, we should know what are the core issues which has to be taken care of, otherwise there will be poor industrial relations. So, the core issues are wages, working hours, safety, grievance settlement and dispute resolution, and many other issues may be there. Some of the issues may be general issues also, which like these issues they are general, some are very specific to some of the industry. Then coming to the objectives in general, we find that industrial relations are necessary to protect workers' interests, to ensure industrial peace, to encourage employee participation in decision making, and to increase productivity. Later on we will discuss the objectives in detail. Now coming to another key component, that is the processes involved. So to maintain good industrial relationships, certain processes has to be at place, that is collective bargaining, labor legislation, joint consultation committees, grievance handling procedure, dispute settlement machinery. Now the next topic is scope of industrial relations. So it has a very wide scope because it is multidimensional, complex, multi-layered, and that is why the scope of IR is very broad. And when we talk about the general things like collective bargaining, industrial peace, they are common to all organizations, but specific industries requirements are different and their industrial relation situation may be different. So the scope of industrial relation encompasses the complex multi-layered interaction between employers, employees, trade union and the government to foster harmony, productivity and conflict resolution. It covers individual as well as collective employment relationships, labor legislation, collective bargaining, workers' participation in management, all these aiming to regulate workplace behavior and working conditions. There are two aspects of industrial relations which are very important. One is the conflict and cooperation. So the aim of industrial relation is to first and foremost is to maintain peace, so that conflicts should be minimum, and if there is any conflict, that it should be resolved quickly. And another is seeking cooperation of the people, cooperation of the workers, so that you can achieve the goals of the organization. So hence industrial relations strives to prevent conflict between employer and employees and promote cooperation between the employer and employees. Industrial relation expects employers to strive for sound HR practices so as to reduce the possibility of conflict. Collective bargaining, participative management and industrial democracy are some of the tools used to achieve the dual goal of cooperation and less conflict. Now, if we talk about the key areas in the scope of industrial relation, there are many. So, they are like labor management relation, which may be collective as well as individual, employer and employee organization, role of government and legal framework, conflict resolution and industrial peace, industrial democracy and participation, and human resource management intersections. So, let us discuss these areas which will reflect the scope of industrial relations one by one. So, first is labor management relations. Now, this is the core of IR. IR will not exist if we do not talk about the labor management relationship, which is the core of IR. Now, this can be both collective as well as individual. The focus is on relationship between management and trade unions, because the workers, they negotiate with the help of their union, which is the trade union. Now, when we talk about IR, it involves collective bargaining, wage determination and working condition. So, that is why it becomes collective. It includes individual employer relations as well. So, then we can say that scope is individual as well, like hiring, grievance redressal, employment terms, these are individual issues. Then the second key area or the scope or in the scope of IR is employer and employee organizations. So, it is not that only the employer and employee are interacting, but their respective organizations may also interact with each other or negotiate. And one of the most important organization is trade union. So, this includes the interactions, power struggles and agreements between the trade union and employer association. The regulation of these interactions are also part of it. Now, third is the role of government and the legal framework. Now, we know that in our country also there are plethora of labor laws available. Now, any amendment that has to be undertaken, it is initiated by government. So, the government acts as a regulator, mediator, adjudicator in industrial disputes enforced through labor laws and policies. Another issue is conflict resolution and industrial peace. So, IR includes strategies to prevent and manage industrial conflict, including work committees, conciliation boards, arbitration and labor laws. Industrial democracy and participation is another area. IR acts towards promoting the inclusion of workers in management decision making, such as joint management councils and workers' participation in equity. Participative management involves workers sharing the information, problem solving, joint consultation, decision making. All these improves the industrial democracy. Also, it ensures healthy and long term relationship or lasting harmonious relations and overall industrial peace. Then one more area is this participation can be descending or ascending. So, when we talk about descending participation, it is achieved through job designing, enlargement and enrichment strategies. For example, workers' participation in work and decision making. Then collective bargaining as interest group democracy and participative management as representative democracy are considered as examples of ascending participation. So, when democracy of this sort is resorted to, we call it ascending participation. Another key area is human resource management intersections. So, while HR focuses on individual employer-employee relationship, IR extends to collective relations including or ensuring employee morale, safety, health is maintained. Now, the next topic is nature of industrial relations. So, if we talk about the nature, these are the nature characteristics. 1, it is complex. 2, conflict and cooperation. It is also dynamic and evolving, interdisciplinary, relational, regulated, local as well as global. So, we will discuss these aspects one by one. First is complex. Now, human beings in themselves are complex individuals, and when so many individuals they work together, so you can understand the complexity. People are coming from different background, economic background, social background, their psychological make is different. So, that all these also makes industrial relation a little complex. So, industrial relations involves complex interplay of economic, social, psychological and legal factors. This has a very heavy bearing on how the relationship between the labor and employer are shaped in the society. The second aspect is conflict and cooperation that we have discussed earlier also. So, these are the two main goals of industrial relation, that is conflict resolution and seeking cooperation. So, IR has the dual role of resolving conflict and fostering cooperation. Now, conflicts are inevitable. So, it is better to manage the conflicts, and here conflicts may be related to anything which is related to the employment agreement of the worker with the organization. So, it may be related to wages, working condition, leave rule and managerial decisions, and managerial decision is a vast terminology because it may relate to any area. So, cooperation is needed to resolve disputes and negotiate terms. Another characteristic is dynamic and evolving. So, industrial relation is not a static concept, it is dynamic and ever evolving, as this witnesses a continuous change due to the changes in the economic, social, psychological, legal and technological factors. So, these factors, economic, social, psychological, legal technological factors, these are not a static concepts. So, they are constantly changing. When these are constantly changing and IR evolves out of this, so the IR also becomes dynamic and evolving. Then another characteristic is interdisciplinary. The study of IR is interdisciplinary in nature. It requires a knowledge and understanding of different disciplines. One is management, others are economics, law, sociology, psychology. All these are necessary to understand the relationships. Then another characteristic is relational. IR emphasizes the interpersonal interactions between workers, employers and managers. So, relation is the core of IR, and how the relations can be maintained, it is through two-way open communication. So, communication helps build trust, understanding and mutual respect. This fosters cooperation and resolves the conflicts. Next characteristic is regulated. So, in every country there will be a framework, legal framework which will govern the industrial relation as well, and it is very much there in India as well. IR are governed by framework of laws, regulations, rules and agreements. These define the rights, obligations and responsibilities of employers, employees and their representatives. Compliance with labor laws and regulation is essential for ensuring all the benefits that accrue to the workers, like fair treatment, protection of workers' rights, industrial democracy. Then finally, the final characteristic is it is local as well as global. IR is affected by local factors such as the political system, cultural norms, industry specific condition, etc. These factors also have an impact on IR at a state and national level. But global factors like rise in number of multinational companies, globalization, outsourcing, technological environment, all these have an impact of labor on the labor market and the empowerment of workers. Now, let us summarize what we have studied in this lecture. We studied the industrial relation, and what we found that industrial relations refer to the collective, legal and social relationships between management, employees, trade unions and the state, focusing on regulating working conditions and resolving conflicts. Now, industrial relations have to be maintained in the industry as well as in organization for peace, harmony and so that the productive efficiency of people and the organization in general improves. The scope of industrial relation is very vast and it includes the labor management relations both at the collective level and individual level, employer and employee organizations and their relationships, then the legal framework to govern industrial relations, conflict resolution and industrial peace, industrial democracy and participation and HR intersections. So, the scope of industrial relation covers many areas. Finally, when we talk about the nature of IR, we find that it is complex as people themselves are complex individuals, and when so many people will be working together, also different processes are there. So, that makes IR very complex. Then conflict and cooperation, which we have discussed in different under different headings. So, IR's main objective is to resolve the conflict or create a situation where conflict will not arise. But as I said, conflicts are inevitable and you cannot avoid them, but you can manage them well and solve or resolve them well. And another is cooperation, because cooperation of everybody right from the management to the workers are required to maintain a good IR and also achieve their individual goals. Dynamic and evolving. So, IR is not a static concept, it is constantly improving, adding something, deleting something. So, this is a dynamic thing and it is ever evolving. it is interdisciplinary because it draws different aspects from management, economics, psychology, sociology and even anthropology. It is relational, talks about the relationship between employer, employee and their organizations. It is regulated because in every country there are regulations, laws available which governs IR. Then local as well as global, local factors may also have an impact, like the political upheaval in a country has a bearing on the industrial relation as well. And it is global also because when we talk about IR, then we are talking about multinational companies and all. So, that has an impact. So, certain references, one is by P.R.N. Sinha and others. It is a 2019 publication, the third edition, Industrial Relations, Trade Unions and Labour Legislations. Padhi, P.K. Padhi, that again industrial relations, it is a Prentice Hall of India publication, and E. Gyankosh is also there, from there also you can study. I hope you have understood this topic well. Have a good day and have a good read. Thank you, students.